This is Neal here, your host, director of Hidden Women. But what you're going to see on today is women that are filled with courage, strength, and such a fortitude. And this is why. They're piercing beyond the veil and going unto an exposure. And they're taking on life, headstrong, head charge. And definitely, it's not going to be a notch against them this day. I'm going to be interviewing two powerful women that's going to share their life experiences, blues, the blunders, the mishaps, the conflicts that did not get resolved, the ups and the downs. I present to you Hidden Women.
Hi, my name is Candy. I live on the far northwest side of Chicago, and I was born in 1974. Life for me when I was growing up was filled with a lot of confusion. Um, when I was 5, my mother gave me away to live with her brother, which was my uncle and his wife. And so I lived with them from the time I was 5 till I was 15. There was a lot of emotional abuse, some physical abuse, sexual abuse by other people. Just, a lot of feeling of unworthiness, of abandonment, of being unloved. And I left home when I was 15 because I couldn't take it anymore.
When you say you couldn't take it, I mean, what was running through your mind when you fully made the final commitment to leave?
It was to a point where the behavior sexually was, I was like, either I leave or this person is going to rape me. And so I was like, I could take a lot of things, but I'm not going to allow. I'm old enough now where I'm not going to allow that to happen to me.
Did you feel like that was about to happen? You felt like this was actually about to.
Yes, because the behavior is little by little of inappropriateness to the point where you feel like it's imminent. It's gonna happen.
So, Candy, what were some obstacles that you really had to overcome as you departed? What were some real serious things that came about?
Well, when I left, I went to live with my best friend's family, and they took me in, and I stayed with them for the next 2 years until my biological mother felt like I should come live with her, and to try to rebuild that relationship. So one of the biggest obstacles, and it was even until like my mother passed away actually last year, there was so much resentment there between us. Still animosity, because it was like something that was never talked about.
So was this over the span of 20 years or 25, 20 to
43, so from the time I was 17. So it was like 26 years. 26 and it's years. Just something that was never talked about. It's like, well, why did you give me away? Why didn't you knew what type of person he was? Because the stories come out that when they were growing up, he was physically abusive to his siblings as well. So it's like, well, why would you send me to live with someone like that?
And why did you come to a resolve on that out of her mouth, or to this day you're still wondering why?
It's like you realize that hurt people. So even with him, the type of life that they had, where, their mother was raising 6 kids on her own in, the 40s and 50s, back when there really wasn't that much help. And so sometimes they were left, all of them, alone to share a jar of peanut butter, and that's all they had to eat. Well, their dad, went to the Salvation Army and had a hot meal or somewhere and left his kids to fend for himself. So I realized, even some of the things my mother did, was because of the way that she was treated as she was growing up. So there was never any communication in my family about anything. Everything was always brushed under the rug, and stuffed it down. Nobody ever confronted even themselves.
When it did happen, whenever those slight parts that there was a confrontation every now and again, was it unhealthy when it did come out, kind of like a volcano, possibly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there was like, it's just like with any relationship, blowing up over the little thing is not the little thing that's bothering you. It's all that built up resentment, animosity, and anger that you have inside for this person, where, if they sneeze, it's like the end of the world. How could you dare do this to me? They're sneezing. Yeah. So, but it's all that other stuff. That feeling of abandonment, that hurt, no explanation, or, there were times when she said we thought you'd have a better life, and it's like.
Did that kind of feel like you're not good enough? You're not good enough? Like you didn't get things. This unresolved. There's so much unresolved stuff. Like, man, I'm not good enough. And did that kind of pour into your other relationships throughout the years? Even thereafter those 20 years, did that pour into other relationships in your life? Relationship wise.
It did, and then you're constantly looking for that validation through other people.
Yeah, there we go.
And you're just not going to find it. Because that what you're seeking, that hole that you have inside of you, nobody else can fill that for you. You can't receive love from other people when you don't love yourself. Right. You can't fully give love to other people when you don't love yourself.
And what were the ways that you had substitute or cope with that love that you weren't getting? What did you substitute or cope? I know some people it's food, some people it's television, or just even saying things in the mirror that's unhealthy. Were there certain things that you did certain coping mechanisms?
Well, there was lots of different ways. Some points it was food, some points it was sex, some points it was relationships. There's a lot of various things that become addictions.
Yeah. And so, Candy, how did the bitterness that you was referring to impact your relationships throughout different circles of your life?
I think mostly it's trying to find love. So you're looking from someone else to give that to you, the parental love you didn't have. So I didn't see my father for 7 years, and so you're constantly looking for that male validation, that love from a man. And so, the first time I had sex, I got pregnant with my daughter.
How did that? So what is that? How did that rock your world?
It just, I was 18 when it happened. I dropped out of high school. I had my daughter, and then we had another child, and then by the time they were like 2 and 3, I was a single mother.
Yeah.
And it was just a matter of, I worked fast food on my feet 10 hours a day until my due date. And then I went back to work when they were 3 weeks old with both of them. And it was just like, if I'm doing this all by myself, I might as well be all by myself. Right. Because, and then on top of it, you're cheating on me with someone else. So it's just like, why am I doing this? Why am I here? And then so it just went from, okay, another person has rejected me, another person has abandoned me, even though I didn't want to be with them, and so you just keep looking for it until you get so jaded where you're like, all right, I'm going to treat you the way I've been treated. So then that's when it came in. It's like, I was the man now, and I'm treating you the way you treat women.
So it was a reversal, kind of flip.
Kind of thing, yeah.
Okay.
And it was bad, It was nothing nice, and I wasn't anything nice, and I didn't care about anyone's feelings. Matter of fact, I got like this kind of high from hurting people.
Oh wow! Okay.
From seeing men hurt.
Yeah.
Like that put a smile on my face. I was happy.
Because it was empowering.
It was empowering, and then it was also that thought that I got to get you before you get me, because every last one of you are the same, which isn't true.
Right.
So, that's where it went from there.
Yeah. So Candy, what was the point, like you were sharing, it was a euphoric high, it was empowering, there was an empowerment there to hurt, which I know you were stating it was disastrous, it was really bad. What was I would call it the point break situation where you reflected to say, this is not good? Was it a certain event, or did you just wake up one morning and realize this down spiral had been taking place?
I think it was a combination of two things, one good and one bad.
Mm.
One, I had tried to go back to school. Well, actually, when I was pregnant with my second daughter, I was 9 months pregnant, and I went and I took my GED test. So I got my GED then.
Yeah.
And then over the course of those years, I tried several times to go back to school, and it just never stuck with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, it was like the third time I enrolled at Wright College. I had to take pre-credit courses because I was a GED student. I didn't have a high school diploma. And but it was there that I worked towards being in the honor society. I had a great mentor there, where being around someone who told you you can do anything you want to do.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, was something I never heard before.
Mm.
And just to have somebody pour into your life that doesn't want anything from you.
Right.
That's what made all the difference for me.
Right.
And then the other thing was, I was actually working at the adult bookstore at the time, and just being around sex all the time, and just watching people come in and out, and the men that would be there hanging out, and it got to the point where they were there so much that they started confiding in me.
Right.
I have issue with this, I have issue with that. And then I know people think that there's drug addiction, there's alcohol addiction, but nobody believes that there's a sex addiction.
Right.
Nobody believes that there's a food addiction or a love addiction or codependency. But all those things together, they're all the same.
Yeah.
And just because you don't struggle with something doesn't mean that someone else doesn't.
Right.
And I know some people use addictions as an excuse for bad behavior, but there really are people who struggle with that, because when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter what your drug is.
Right.
The whole point of it is to escape.
Mm-hmm.
Escape the pain of your life. And that's just what it is. And it was just wow. It's like this whole demented world that we're living in, it's all because people are trying to escape. They're trying to escape the pain of abuse, of being unloved, of not loving themselves. And that's really what comes down to. And then, so it's funny because I'm here working in the adult bookstore surrounded by sex, and that's the first time in my life that I actually was celibate for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with God,
right,
because I wasn't a Christian at the time.
Right.
Because I actually had grown up in the church. My uncle was a preacher.
Right.
And so for me, I associated him with God, and I was just like, anybody, you call yourself a man of God, but yet you do these things to me. And at that point, I really hated God. Because it was like this person was a representation of him. But the truth be known, this person has nothing to do with God,
So the point, when did you differentiate to say, okay, they represented God, and then you said, well, you were hating God. Mm-hmm. Then when was the turning point where there was such healing that started taking place?
I think it happened because whenever I was fearful, I prayed.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just like, God answered prayers, certain prayers. God provided for me and my family. But I still wasn't ready